file 26993FC. It's People versus Patricia Jones. You, Patricia Jones.
Yes, I am.
All right, Ms. Jones appears before the court with her attorney, Ms. Robinson. Ms. Jones is here on behalf of the state of Michigan. Same time scheduled for a sentencing. Any additions or corrections, Ms. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor, if the court doesn't mind, if we go all the way to the end where the guidelines are.
Yeah.
I believe PRV 5 should not be scored in review of the crimes that are listed or prior convictions that are listed. It does appear that from 2013 to the present day conviction that we're dealing with, there is a 10-year gap, so I do not believe PRV should be PRV 5 should be scored, which would make that 0, which would then make her PRV level, I believe it's A, and her, I would have the guidelines changing then from to, I think, hang on one second, starting at 10, and I forget what habitual this was. Was this a habitual at all? I forget.
No habitual,
Okay,
Your Honor.
so it would be 10 to 19, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Ms. Robinson, any objection to that? Any objection to that?
No objection to the PRV being changed to 15, from 15 to 0, Your Honor, but
Oh, I can.
I don't believe that number is accurate.
Yeah, if it's an A.
Oh, it's not, well, it is accurate before I make my objection. So yes, no objection, Your Honor, to PRV 5 being amended to 0. I made the prosecutor aware of that last week. We had discussed it well before.
Any other additions or corrections?
Other additions or corrections, Your Honor?
Ms. Robinson, any additions or corrections?
Your Honor, no additions to the report. However, I would object to OV1 scored at 5, and then I'll address OV9 after my statements, Your Honor.
Okay.
All right. OV1 we have scored at 5 points, and after reading from the guideline book, it says that it has to be a weapon was displayed or implied. Your Honor, I understand from the probation's narrative that the note that was slid to, I believe, the representative at the bank, we've never been able to see that note or actually see the actual details of the note, but I believe the description from the representative of the bank was that give me your money or give me all the money or everyone will get hurt, something to that effect. And I believe the implication that the probation is taking in the PSI is that if someone's going to be hurt, then it has to be some kind of weapon in your purse or your clothing or maybe in the car. But there definitely was no a weapon presented. There was no fingers or hand under a jacket that tried to imply that there was a gun. I think that's the representations I've seen, at least, that if you're saying have a gun and you don't have a gun, but yet you got your hand in your jacket, that can definitely be 100% implication of a weapon being used. But Your Honor, I don't believe this is the correct interpretation of a weapon being applied, because you say that there could be people that could be hurt. So I would object to number 1 being scored at 5.
Your Honor, obviously I would oppose that. Per the report, it says the note read something to the effect of, "This is a holdup. I need money from the top 2 drawers, no ink money, or everyone will get hurt." Your Honor, I think that implies, being that this is a holdup, is an imply of a weapon. This is not a armed robbery any longer. This is now a bank robbery, and therefore it is not a disqualified felony. So I would ask the court to deny that request and leave that score at 5 points.
Okay.
Your Honor, again, the note was never, no one knows exactly what the note ever says. We've never seen it, prosecutor or defense.
Yeah, what's the number?
Your Honor, this is unfortunately Matt Roberts has handled this matter. I don't have any reason to discredit, but I think that the teller was interviewed and the teller said that a note was slid to them, and this is what it said. So.
Okay. Well, so OB1 score at 5 is, it says the weapon was displayed or implied. I don't think there's any dispute that a weapon was not displayed. The question is, was it implied? We don't have the actual note. We have the teller's kind of interpretation of it. In the PSI, it's in quotes. This is the note read something effect of quote, this is a hold up. I don't know if that's a quote from the,
It would have been from the police report, Your Honor.
yeah, but I don't know if that's a quote from like the teller, that's what she actually said, like, hey, the note said something like the effect, or
Do you want me to quote?
she like quoting
I think she was,
the
from
note.
the way I read
itself.
it, she was trying to remember the best way she could possibly, because I believe the note was taken back by Ms. Jones after the encounter. So she didn't have it to give to the officer at the actual
Was this
scene.
no conference?
I wasn't here for the plea.
What?
Yes, it was, Your Honor.
All right, I have a police report real quick.
All right.
Let me look real quick here. Let's get this right. All right, while that, my system's loading up here, while that's going, what are the other challenges you have, Ms. Robinson?
Gunner number 9 is scored at 10, and for the guidelines, it reads that there were 2 or 9 victims were placed in danger of injury or loss of life. I'm sorry. 2 or 9 victims were placed in danger of physical injury or death, or 4 to 19 victims were placed in danger of property loss. I believe, without any kind of description from the probation department, this was scored because it was in a place where other employees were working. From my reading of it, and I've read it over several times, none of the people in the bank were even aware that this was going on, except the teller herself, who had direct communication, at least through the note, with Ms. Jones. And so I would object to this being scored at anything other than the 0, because that would put one person under this description of victims being placed in danger or injury or loss of life. I believe the interviews that were reported in the police report were that no one at all knew what was happening until Ms. Jones left the bank.
All right, Ms. Jones?
Your Honor, obviously I oppose that as well. The 2 to 9 victims were placed in danger of physical injury or death. Again, this does not have to be that everybody knew what was happening. In fact, case law to score 2 to 9 points, when we have the reckless driving causing serious injury or whatever, or drunk driving causing one of those, the courts have found that the other people that the cars are having contact with on the road can also be scored in the 2 to 9. So even though that every one of these tellers were not aware that there was a holdup going on, the fact is these individuals were placed in danger based on the note, based on the fact that this was a holdup, she was robbing the bank. And I would argue that any of these people, especially with it, or everyone will get hurt, qualifies for 2 to 9 victims to be placed in danger of physical injury or death. Those were, getting hurt was based on the defendant's own statement. So I would argue that the 10 points is properly scored, Your Honor.
Again, Your Honor, not to beat a dead horse, the note was never recovered.
I was just reading to see if her car or, I don't think they found any weapons on her person,
No, Your Honor.
just money, is that true, Ms. Jones? I think I'm reading that correctly.
Yes, Your Honor, I don't think they recovered any weapon, but I believe it was some time before they located her, so.
Okay. All right, so it's a preponderance of the evidence standard. I think the statement itself, that someone is going to, that someone can get hurt, is not enough for this offense variable. These people actually have to be placed in danger of injury or death. On the road example that Ms. Jonas gave, anybody on the road passing a vehicle where somebody behind the wheel drunk is in a place of danger, because all it takes is just like this. Because they're, in reality, I don't think if that couldn't be scored potentially if the vehicle was parked, even though it could be because it's got the potential to be. So it's a little bit bad, it's a bad example, but my reasoning behind, was there a weapon in the car? Would lead, it's preponderance of the evidence standard. That would lead me to say, okay, she may have had a knife on her, so then she had the ability to inflict physical injury or death, even though she never took it out or never, applied it. Were these people actually placed in a danger? Not could they have been, or did they feel like they were in danger, but did she actually have the ability to do that? Given Ms. Jones' age and relative frailty, without a weapon, the court can't find that that anybody was placed in danger of physical injury or death. Even though she threatened it, did she actually have the ability to do that? By preponderance of the evidence standard, the court is making that finding. Not that there were not victims here, but certainly victims were placed in fear, stress, those kind of things, but in danger of physical injury or death. So based on that, the court is going to score that at 0.
Is that OB9, Your Honor?
That's OB9.
I just want to make sure we're on the same one.
Yeah. Any other offense variables, Mr. Robinson?
That was all, Your Honor.
Okay, so I gotta go back to the OB one here real quick.
Your Honor, if the court reads page 5, I think it would.
So she says, Trina stated, slid her a note that stated, quote, okay, so it's a quote from the, she remembers a quote from the note, not her quote, paraphrasing. All right, well, so based on that, it is preponderance of the evidence standard. I think when you say hold up, common understanding of hold up is typically what you see in the movies. Typically, you don't see in a movie somebody just walking in without a weapon, or at least, so when you're hold up, I think a reasonable person would believe that would be impliedly a weapon. Something's involved. I need money. This is a hold up. It's a preponderance of the evidence standard. So based on preponderance of the evidence, the court would leave the scoring as it is based on that. So we do have one change to the offense variables. So I think it's now total OBs are now 15.
Exactly, yeah.
Let me just
Which then changes the guidelines, Your Honor, to 0 to 17.
Okay. That your understanding, Ms. Robinson?
That's exactly where we had them at Friday, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. Any other additions or corrections, Ms. Robinson?
No additions or corrections further tonight, thank you.
All right. Ms. Jones, did you have an opportunity to review that pre-sentence report?
Somewhat, when I walked in here.
Okay, well, listen, you have the opportunity to review the whole thing if you want to, okay? If you need more time to look through, you can.
Oh, I see it on Facebook,
You don't want to? Okay, all right. Do you have any additions or corrections?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Any application, Ms. Jones?
Yes, Your Honor. Obviously, I think this is an extremely scary situation. I think to be noted even in the police report in that paragraph, the court just read at the end, the bank teller stated that she was in fear of her life and that she definitely thought that she was going to be harmed and didn't know what else. She also was, there was another teller that walked up when this was going on, and she did explain what was going on kind of through it looked like a messaging system or something. So there were multiple people that were aware this bank robbery was going on, which is why the alarm ended up being triggered. I respect that there is, at least from what Mr. Roberts put in the notes, some underlying mental health issues. I fear greatly, I feel horrible for these victims, and I would never wish this upon anybody else. I know the guidelines are 0 to 17, and I know that this court is able to fashion a sentence that is appropriate in this matter, but I do fear, and I do feel very badly for the individuals that were put in. I couldn't even imagine being put in that position, and I think I would fear being told that this is a holdup, that there was a weapon, and that I could be injured.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Jones is currently physically disabled. She is of age now of her upper 60s, and while this is certainly a scary offense to deal with, Your Honor, I think there are some things that led up to it that Ms. Jones hinted at with a mental break, and certainly not rational thinking. And Ms. Jones, if you look at her history, this doesn't make sense. The PSI accurately reflects her criminal background, which is about the 10-year gap happens because there was nothing happening in her life criminality-wise because she was under proper medication, which she has been on for now years. Our social work team has diligently worked securing her records to see what happened, that this former councilwoman, former person who worked for our community and our government, very active in our community, in touch with a lot of people who make moves in this community, would make such a drastic decision that day. And from what our records reflect, exactly the meeting that she gave me when I met her was that, you know what, I was on a medication that helped with my mental health, my anxiety, a lot of things that's going on, and my doctor completely stopped that medication. And it started when her retail fraud stopped nearly almost 20 years ago. And then when it stopped, a lot of things trickled down. Housing started getting lost, money started getting low. She wasn't able to maintain and make decisions, and this was probably the climax of her mental health breakdown from a loss of medication. She is currently back on that medication now, and she's securing housing. She does have supportive family. She is in touch with mental health providers. She's always telling me every time I meet her about the updates that's going on in her life, why this was a very unfortunate, scary, I'm sure, situation. Ms. Jones didn't have any weapons, which is a good thing in this situation. She was never physically going to hurt anyone, but a horrible decision, and she knows she has to pay for that decision today. Your Honor, I believe not only the frail lady that stays in front of you, she's in a better mental health state, and I'm sure that as long as her medication is continued and her counseling and her therapy, that this kind of rash decision to help out with a lot of things that were horribly going wrong in her life would never happen again. Her guidelines are 0 to 17, and I know that in this case, Judge, you do have discretion to make this a prison case, a community sanctioned case, but we're asking that you consider what's going on now with her medication, her age, and her mental therapy that she has going on, that she was able to continue that. We're able to secure all of her medical records from the past 15 years from her doctors and her prescriptions, and I can accurately tell you that she is prescribed and currently current on everything that she should have been on to keep her mental health stable at that point. And I know that my client would also like to speak with you, but we're asking for the appropriate fines and costs, probation, and supervision at that point. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Roberts. Ms. Jones, anything you wish to say on your behalf prior to sentencing?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. First of all, I apologize, I guess, to the court for even being here in this situation. I'm disappointed. It hurt a lot of people. But you know, more than anybody, I've hurt myself. I've hurt myself. I am sorry to the victims. I am grateful I didn't hurt anyone. I can't explain something I don't even fully remember. But I've heard from what was quite remembering heard a lot of falsehoods. But I'm not gonna deal with that this morning. I'm gonna deal with how I got here. It started last January. I fell and tore my shoulder up. It's still torn up. Popsing it out. I go through that, along with the crippling disease of neuropathy I suffer with my feet. I know at that time, it started with my going to Trinity. And I had fallen, and I asked them to see what was wrong with my arm. And they put me off for 2 months until I went back and demanded. You know, I paid $200 a month of my little bitty retirement to the federal government so I can have health insurance. They use it like they want to, so they should use it for my care. They didn't until I demanded it. You know, in this county, I served 48 years as a nurse. Not a nurse assistant, but as a registered nurse. So I know health care. I know what it's come to. We don't have any. And it scared me when I went there and I couldn't get proper care. And there was nowhere else I could reach out to. And they dismissed me and threw me out. When they found out my shoulder was torn up, I was called back that month. And they gave me the MRI finding that I, not a doctor, but me, demanded. They threw me out with an MRI, like, here, take it. Now go see what you could do with it. There was nothing I knew it in Muskegon County. And they cut off all my medications at that point. Just stop cold turkeys, things I've been on 22 years. I'm grateful I wasn't abusing medication, but I was using medication because, again, I'm a nurse. At one time, when I first messed up my back, which causes my feet now, I messed that up in my nursing career too. 20 years of lifting patients, probably your moms and dads, with my dangerous stuff. I'm going to talk. This is my chance. I haven't talked all this time. Sometimes I wasn't able to talk, so today I'm going to talk, you know. The systems failed me. Then I went from that, having no health care, to being pressed. The systems of government failed me next. The system of medical care had failed me. Then the systems of the government failed me. I was going to Muskegon City Commission meetings, begging them regarding the senior citizen complex I live in. You know, I started off paying $700 a month when I moved there. And before a year was up, I was up to $1,000. Going up $100 every month. I retired. And back when I started work in 1978, we don't make the salaries that nurses make now. You know, nurses didn't make that kind of money until they felt when COVID came out and they were afraid to go in there. And they had to send somebody, well, the nurses got to know. That's when they come up with the $50 hour pays. But we never received that. The highest I received as a nurse might have been before I retired, $24 an hour. And I broke my back because that was the career I chose. And I wanted to be a good nurse, and I was a good nurse for 48 years, as long as I had my medicine, because I learned at 36 years old, I accepted that I had a mental health disease. But guess what? I worked through it and it was okay. You know, the stigma was attached, but I didn't care. I was going to take my medication because I knew how it made me feel whole again. So when it was just snatched up from me in meanness, because I didn't take their oxycodone for pain. See, if I had taken that, then I'd have been in real trouble. But see, I knew not to take that because I know what they will do. So, I took the Alzheimer's because I needed it, and I took it responsibly. But people started abusing it, and all of a sudden, society, legal system, one day is illegal, the next day is legal and it's okay, but you're playing with people's lives. But again, in this county, I worked as a nurse for 48 years and gave good care in every capacity I worked in. I started at Happy Hospital. I gave Happy Hospital 18 years. I don't think there's a nursing home here now that I haven't worked in at some point before I retired. I gave 18 years of my life as a city commissioner here because I care. The number one thing, priority on my list was public safety. Go make sure you tell Mr. Hilson, remind him it was public safety. I hired more police officers during my tenure and under my direction than any other point in of that city that's been hired. They don't have half the police officers that we had back then. So I believe in public safety. I believe in public safety. I believe in good medical care, taking care of people. So I would never, in a righteous, conscious mind, sound mind, try to hurt anyone. And to keep hearing that said hurts me deeply, because I've given my life to trying to help people. As a city commissioner, seniors and children were my priorities, And I put good programs in place. All of that's diminished now. I think one day I started getting scared that nothing was there anymore to help people. It's going, the medical care is gone. I fought hard to make sure there were 3 hospitals, at least 2, to take care of patients here in Muskegon County. You need some competition. Sometimes competitive is good. How the county let that happen, I don't know, because cities around here used to come together and push the county administrator to make sure those systems were intact. In some kind of way, it fell through. I was saying to city government every day to help me with the housing. They want me to pay $1,000. Drains were plugged. Windows had boards on them. And the city commission, as I stood down there and told them, the Pakistanis that owned the building told me that if I go down there again and open my mouth, that I would be thrown out. And when I gave them my $1,000, I informed them that's my First Amendment right. You can't stop me from doing that. But it did no good because they didn't do anything. They take our monies from the poor. They derive their figures from the minorities. And then they don't put anything back to help us in those systems. And maybe I was ahead of my time, or I was too late for this time, because it scared me. What was going on here in this county scared me. I gave 14 years of my life coming in this county jail as a counselor. Uplifting women, talking about substance abuse. I spoke yesterday at an NA meeting, and a lady stood up in the audience and blessed my heart to say, I remember when I was in jail. And now today she has 20 years clean. myself 24 years clean from opiates that I was getting when I first hurt my back. So I took my medication as given, and I sat there, and it just kept getting worse and worse. When they took my medicine, it was like something broke. I came to this county, Health West, paid them good $300-something a month out of insurance that I paid for each month. I went to Health West when Trinity cut me off because I knew I needed my medication. I went to Health West. It took me 4 months to be able to get in and see someone. 4 months. I was scared. I was scared. You know, you go back to when I had misdemeanors. My sponsor then was Judge Green. He took me under his wings. That's what happened. He grabbed me. He saw me. And I'm grateful. He saw me. I'm not the person that PR, whatever you call that, made me to be. That lady at the end, she looked at me, what were you gonna do with the money? All I sat there and told her, poured my heart out. What were you gonna do with the money? Lady, do you hear I was crazy? It wasn't about the money. I didn't know I was going in to get money. She had none of that. But I know these are young people with their high-powered suits on, and I like them. I remember when, but today I have to realize I'm a senior citizen. So I think in this county,